Welcome.
We'll just go under. Whoop.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. We
There we
are
go.
very happy to be here participating in this amazing event about this panel about financing and empowerment. So we have amazing panelists here from all over the world and from different sides of the business to bring us a good perspective and hopefully demystify a little bit what a producer is and does and what a commissioner is and does. So we have Andrea here from Italy, who's an Italian producer and specializes in international productions and co-productions. We have Rola, who is based out of Canada, right? But works all over the region and is a producer. And we have Hans, who is the Abu Dhabi Film Commissioner.
Yeah. My fan club. Happy
So
audience.
let's dive in, and maybe start with you, Hans, and your fan club will enjoy this. And
Any chance we can turn the lights up so we
Bit
can
bright,
see
yeah.
the audience? Can you turn the lights up? It's that switch there that says light. Put it up.
we'll see
Lights.
if they can put it a bit down. Hans, you have a very scary title because it says commissioner in
Yeah.
your title.
Yeah.
What is a commissioner?
We arrest people that don't do the right thing. There we go. That's much
nice.
better.
Woo.
So just so we know how to position this dialogue, how many, show of hands, how many people are in the industry? Cameron, you're in the industry, aren't you?
About half the
There
room.
you go. And okay, so quite a few. And second question, how many people are in an above the line position in the industry? Okay. So maybe to set the context,
Yeah.
right? Because what's the title of this thing?
Financing and
Empowerment, right? So we're going to empower you with some knowledge about financing.
Yes.
So the two main formats in any type of screen entertainment are feature film and TV, episodic TV. And the financing for each of those are very different. So I think this is more of a film thing,
Film,
right? So
yes.
we'll talk about the universe of film financing. And film financing, to simplify it, really you can divide it in two parts. There's public financing that comes from the government and private financing. Okay. Now, within private financing, there's different types of sources, right? And different types of feature films. So if it's a studio film, a studio is, Warner Brothers, Yash Raj, Universal, Disney. That's what studios do. Studios are actually banks. They're not really production houses. They're banks, and they finance and distribute projects. But that's a small minority of everything that's produced. 85% of everything that's produced is independent feature films in the film universe, right? And so that's the biggest part of a producer's job is to raise the money, right? As Jerry Maguire said, "Show me the money," right? So where does that money come from? If you're a producer producing a independent production, right? So the first part is private equity, right? Friends, family, dentists, people you know, they give you some money and they get a piece of the pie, right? And normally their payback is after the production breaks even. They'll usually get 50% plus a bonus, maybe 20%. So that's private equity. There's also debt financing, which can be gap financing. So for example, you finance 80% of your budget, you're missing 20%, you go to a bank or a specialized film financier and you'll generate gap. That's always dangerous though, because if your film doesn't break even, and the chances are it won't, you're on the hook to pay that money back, right? And that's why the production game is a very dangerous one. So my advice to any young producer is never green light until you're fully financed. All right? That's the private part. On the public part, and that's where I come in.
Exactly.
So there's basically two types of public, to simplify it again, two types of public financing: subsidies and credits. All right. So most countries, except ironically for the United States and India, the two biggest production communities in the world, have public fund programs. So before I was the Abu Dhabi Film Commissioner, I was the director of Telefilm Canada, which is the Canadian film funding agency. And Canada is a very sophisticated funding program. We have 12 different funding programs, everything from development money, pre-production, production, post, marketing, export, training, so on. So those are public funds, and those are also always selective. In any country, whether it's in Italy or France or Canada, those are selective. And then the other part of public financing, and that's where I come in, is what's called soft money. And soft money is tax credits in a jurisdiction where there's tax,
Right.
or a cash rebate in a jurisdiction where there's no tax. Obviously, in Abu Dhabi, there's no tax, so we administer a 30% cash rebate. Okay, so basically it's a use and consume program where you spend $1, you get 30 cents back. So that's really a very simplified way of painting the context of financing and empowering you to produce.
That's awesome. Thank you, Hans. Andrea, maybe you want to get into the nitty and gritty. That was a great overview and a masterclass on the business as a whole. You are an actual producer, right? So you concentrate on international co-productions. How do you apply that in your everyday job? And then Rola, after that, maybe we'll dive into how that applies specifically to the region.
Yes, first of all, amazing speech. So really,
Yeah.
so precise.
Yeah.
It is amazing. So I can give you two examples of two different budget movies which I've done in the last 12 months. One is a movie which cost around $90 million, and is a biopic about Enzo Ferrari with a great director. So this movie, in the end, how we financed it, we financed it with 22 million in tax credit in Italy.
Yeah.
And all the other part was basically in pre-sales. And
Do you want to break down very quickly what a pre-sale is, very quickly?
yes. Pre-sales is when you are developing a project, you have already a script, you already have a cast. In our case, we had Penelope Cruz and Adam Driver and Michael Mann as a director. You go to a sales agent, and this sales agent does sales in each the territory around the world. And in general, in an international movie, what do? You apply, so you are creating an expectation where you say, okay, my sales estimate are, I should get 11% of the budget outside of Germany, 3% of the budget outside of Italy, 5% outside of French, 4% in Spain, etc., 25 to 30% in US. So basically, based on the budget of the movie, what you do, you have an asking price per each of these countries which they're going to buy. You hope they're going to pre-buy your movie. Of course, the best game is, if you really believe in your project, the best thing is to don't sell some main country like US or UK and New Zealand and Australia, etc., because maybe you can make a much better sales after, you know. But you need to make sure that you can actually do a better sales after. So in my case, when we do a movie for $90 million budget or $5 million budget, which was the second example which I was going to give you, I learned in my life that I don't want to take a risk. So I did 87 movies until now, and my strategy is always to be sure I'm full cover and I'm already in profit. And if my pre-sales, so the things which I explained to you before, does not achieve my expectation, what I do, I go back on the budget and I cut the budget to make sure that I can then finance the movie. Or sometimes, because maybe I did a mistake and I choose the wrong cast, because the value of a project is also based on that, or sometimes I change that. So I pay the kill fee of the lead actors, which I choose, and they say, okay, do the movie with other actor now. Or maybe, or maybe I had to cut a week of shooting to save maybe, I don't know, 15% of the budget. And every time the same drama happen, the director say, I want to kill myself, it's not possible. And then you go inside of a, so this is how I do my own business. And I'm CEO, a founder of my company. I finance my own movie, and I use only banks. I don't use equity from others. And I learned this when I was 18, because at the age of 18, I financed my first movie at the age of 15 with a crowdfunding. At that time, the crowdfunding did not exist in the way it is today. But I went door by door to the dentist, to the
I want to find the dentist.
the people in my town. And and this is how I financed my first movie. And at the age of 18, I had the opportunity to do two things. One movie which make me to make 4 times my money back with no expectation, and another movie where I spent more and I didn't take my money back. But the one which I didn't take the money back, everybody was saying, wow, it's an amazing movie. The other one, everybody was saying, wow, it's such a bad movie, So I learned that actually nobody knows the truth. And as I learned that, I say, okay, I do as many projects as I can, as much quality as possible, but I need to be fully covered in advance, like what you say before, but in a different way.
And without revealing any confidential information, of course, and you can make up numbers, but it's a good example. So you said Ferrari cost 90 million.
Yeah.
And Ferrari is a really good example because it's actually a film that's been around in Hollywood for many
20
years.
Yeah.
For 20 years. And it had a lot of different iterations. So
Exactly.
what does that mean? For example, the lead actor was a certain actor, then the budget was too expensive, so it was another actor, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So you took this example, which is a great one. It's a budget of $90 million. How does the 90 break down?
Really depends based on the movie.
Right.
So I don't think, government around the world, what they try to do, they try to put a budget of a movie inside of a box, which makes sense, but actually does not really make sense then deeply when you start to have an experience of 50, 60, 80 movie which you produce it, you start to understand really the matrix does not really work sometimes, because in general, what a government expects is that, I don't know, the producer fee and the overhead is not above 15% of the budget between, and sometimes actually that need to be 2%, because if no, you cannot finance the movie, or sometimes you have a long development and you have a big cost
right.
on the development. So then in general, some European country, they have an expectation that the above the line should not be above 30% of the budget, and but in my case, many times it's impossible. Because specifically when we do small movie, the cost of the above the line is very heavy. And to make it work, sometimes in an independent movie, we need to shoot the movie maybe in 25 days.
Right.
And then we have only, I don't know, let's say 300,000 per week as a crew, 350,000. So this means you have 5 weeks, which is 3,900, so is 1 million, 1.5, and then actually you have 2 million, maybe only one actor, but that name gives you the possibility then to sell the movie in a different way, because the same story with no name is very hard to sell. So the point is trying to put a budget in a box. Of course, there is many examples, but in my experience, it's not really possible. In some other case, I had more post-production 3D visual effect cost than the whole movie. Because it was a specific type of movie. So, really depends based on the story which you're going to tell and the market which you want to have.
Rola, how do we apply all this to the region specifically? And the Saudi movie media ecosystem is starting. How do we apply all these things to this ecosystem?
First of all, hi. I will ask like Hans, how many producers we have in the room? Okay, just to know where to go with it. And most of you are Arabs? Are you producing in the region? Okay.
Well, Cameron thinks is Arab, but he's not.
He thinks? He's turning to me. So I'm today sitting between commission and a co-producer who's talking about a film that can cost 90 million. And today where we are standing, we can't start here, and we want to work with Hans, hand in hand, to be able to go here.
That's right.
And this is where we are. We should not be dreaming that we will be producing a film with a 90 million tomorrow, because we have an organic process that has to take time to be able to reach to that place. I've been producing in the Arab world from 12 years so far, and our budget of like Arab films, it can vary from 1 million to 3-4 million. If I have a 5 millions, I will be so happy. But it is 5 million not because it's less quality, but because I can't make a profit more than that. So this is the difference when we say, what's the budget of the film? There is like a product that has to return back the money, and this is where we can say, what's the budget? He has stars that can guarantee a very good theatrical sales that can recoup this budget, while still we are in a place where we are always struggling how we can put our films on theaters and how we can recoup from theaters. So where we are now in the Arab world, we are in a stage, and we've been in this maybe for the last 10 years, saying we need to create an Arab audience, or we want to create an audience for the Arab world. And this is where we are now in terms of making films. Platforms came to the area and opened for us a lot of like different opportunities. Okay, we've been struggling all the time to produce with the NBC, with Shahid, with ART, with Rotana, but today we have Apple TV, we have Stars, and we have Netflix. So that means we have the opportunity to make more products that can help us to reach to our goal, which is creating an audience for our product. What I want to a little bit focus on is like the 2 modules that Hans and also, I'm sorry, Andrea explained, which is a studio versus being independent. And the studio, now we have a lot of like all this Netflix, NBC, a lot of initiative of studios are starting, and they are picking what the projects they want, okay? They are picking the projects based on their algorithm, based on their strategy, what kind of genre of films they want, and they fund it for you as a filmmaker and as a producer. How much you are free as a producer or a filmmaker, you are not that much, because the studio has to control the final product, and because they will sell the product, not you. So now what's happening in the Arab world, and mainly in Saudi Arabia, we have studios happening. Now we are waiting the other path to start, which is how to be an independent producer, which means you are controlling your story, and you have to make your story and then try to sell it. Because the first one, which is the studio, it will be selective and it will change, and it will not help that much for Saudis or for the Arabs to tell their own stories. They are telling what the studios want. So there is part of like a responsibility on us on telling our own stories. And this is what I'm doing most of the time, okay? I produce with the studios, but every 2-3 years I have my own projects that I develop it and I finance it. So this is now where we are.
That's great. I think you touched upon a really good point. Hans, you want to say something?
Well, just so when Roula's talking about studios, right, and you're an independent production, if you're dealing with a studio, it's you know, a traditional film studio is very different than a streamer. And if a streamer, as Roula said, if a streamer is financing the cost of your production, they're inevitably going to own the IP, right? So also it depends what your strategy is as a producer. If your strategy is to build a library, you don't want to give that IP away because you're not creating any asset value, right? However, if your strategy as a producer is a service production, then it's the easiest way to do it. besides the controls that, you know, they interfere, but that's the Netflix, the Amazon, the Apples, those guys. But if you do finance your film privately, as the way we used to before streamers came on board, right? And then you can approach the streamers for a distribution deal, right? And you still own the IP because you financed it. I mean, doesn't happen often, but it can happen where, and you know, if you can get a, you know, global distribution on a platform like Netflix, well, happy days for you, right? And your film has just become profitable. But that's more unusual than not. Now, when we're talking about how do you meet these distributors, well, that's where the festivals and markets components comes in, all right? And that's why these film festivals are very important for producers to attend, right? Because not only do they generate the awareness in the local audience of the type of film you're producing, but this is where you can start making these contacts for distribution and pre-sales deals and co-production deals, right? And that's why the markets, and Mariam, who's here, who runs the Red Sea Festival, who used to do Cannes, that's why that's such a crucial component of the whole financing mix. In the old days, we used to be able to finance up to 80% sometimes of a film in pre-sales on the global market. Today, that doesn't happen anymore. But you have other sources that didn't exist before, like I was talking about, streamers. And streamers doesn't only have to be a global deal. You can also have regional, even country deals with streamers. Netflix India is doing that a lot, where they will buy streaming rights just for India.
Specifically for, we have a couple minutes left before we wrap things up, and specifically dedicated to the producers and content creators that are local here. We touched upon an important theme that keeps coming up on all these panels, which is the importance of story, right? Today, technology enables a producer or content creator to put out his or her material from anywhere in the world, and boom, 100+ million people have access to it. And for it not to be buried, the importance of story is extremely important. You're in a region here as a whole, and specifically in Saudi, where there's a trove of incredible stories, incredible IP. Maybe you want to dive into that just quickly before we wrap up.
I wanna focus on that honestly, because our main thing and this is even can complete what we are discussing here. If you want to approach a co-production, you have to have a good story. And now we are in the digital era where we are receiving a lot of stories and we are not projecting anymore. So when we are projecting or writing a story, that should be unique to be able to sell it. We see a lot of stories still. We are in progressing, still we need time, and this is what I said at the beginning. Yesterday I had a small development workshop where one of the writers said, like, I think I can write for the screen. I was like, okay, great. What did you write anything? She's like, no. Are you a screenwriter? She's like, no, I'm a novelist. It's like, my dear, it's not easy to write for the screen. It's a completely different craft. It needs time. It's when you write, when you create a story, it's the most difficult thing from the whole process. Finance is easier than create a story. Producing is easier. Selling is easier, because your story is the base that can complete the whole success. If you don't have it, that means there is a big question mark. So I think where we are in the Arab world, and Hans, you know how much we are suffering from that, is the stories. Today we have to project it really stories that represent us, and it's let's say it's organic stories, and it's a real one that can push us to be successful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts for?
I agree 100% with what you say, and I would like to add one very important thing about to keep the IP. So us as a producer, every time we do a movie, if we are able to keep this movie as we own the IP, we own the distribution right forever, we just giving license to other, this become a little apartment, a little condo for us, you know, because we can keep renting this movie over and over time, you know. And I had the opportunity to learn this with one of my other company, where we have 450 movie, you know, library, from movie which they are very relevant, like sliding doors, what women want, and Donnie Darko, Memento, and also many small movies, you know. And when I acquired this company in 2015, I immediately take a look about all the movies which they were making zero money, and I just put them in a AVOD platform, etc. So this movie started generating provisionally money. Some of them we didn't have also the material, and so keep the IP is a key component. Keep the distribution right is a key component. Just giving in license to basically other for 10 years, 12 years, 12 months, 18 months, depends. But try to keep as much as you can, because that will become the most important part in your company then.
Guys, thank you very much. Hans, final word?
There's a last bit of financing a production and empowering the producer that's quite important, and that's where film commissions come in. Is a good film commission is going to offer a lot of services at the development and pre-production stage that is going to save the producers a lot of money. For example, locations. If you're going to a jurisdiction and you don't know the environment, a good film commission, like the Abu Dhabi Film Commission, will prepare, they'll read your script, break down your script, and prepare digital location packages for you with options. And they'll organize recce's. And while I think of it, two people from the locations department of the Abu Dhabi Film Commission are with us tonight. Samira and Sami, stand up so people can see you and come and consult you afterwards. There you go.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.